Clyde, thanks very much. And Ralph, thank you for your comments as well. I started out as a factory worker to make it even more compelling. I worked my way through college in manufacturing, then ran the NAM for 15 or so years. I've sat on a lot of corporate boards, some of them the big multinationals that Ralph's talking about. And I came from a union family, and so I've been in the middle, a Democrat who ended up having to work with an organization which was largely Republican. I've been in the middle almost all my life, and so I've relished the fact that I again am placed in that position, Clyde, and I really want to say that a number of points that Ralph made with respect to the mercantilist approach, the profit-moting drive of the multinationals is, of course, true. None of us are going to deny it. What I would suggest is that his conclusion that we are separate and cannot be united is wrong. And I think that this whole business about outsourcing for profit and so forth has peaked, and that there is a renewed interest in manufacturing in this country. The onshoring thing makes sense, and there's a renewed interest with labor and business to do some work together. There's a renewed interest on the part of candidates for manufacturing. So I would take a much more positive view about where we are right now in terms of the comeback of manufacturing, which I think has really been quite significant, and it has been done by workers and corporations, and it has been the leading part of this recovery. And the numbers that came from BGC suggest we have made some significant improvement in our competitive position. What I'm interested in is building on that while recognizing the work that Atkinson and the others have done to suggest the glass is half empty. The productivity numbers have not been as good as we thought they were, and the output is less for most manufacturing sectors, so there has to be an explanation other than just the one that Ralph gives that explains why the situation is what it is. And I would suggest that it's because we really have not looked at the full array of things that we need to do in order to be competitive in manufacturing. Most importantly, we have not been bold enough and looked at a number of the categories, and I'm here to say that we certainly haven't been, in terms of my own history, tough enough on the trade issues that Clyde has in fact pioneered. And so one of the areas in which we have to do a much more complete and tough job is on the trade issue. And so I'm delighted to be here, and in the sense of you're saying let's think anew and be unconventional, to endorse much of the tougher trade positions that you have taken over the years and suggest that I'm not alone. There are other people in the business community who are saying that. There are people in the Republican Party and people in the Democratic Party, and even Senator Portman did not rule that out. He simply said, we've got to open markets at the same time. So I'm here to say we can put together not just trade, but an agenda to improve further the competitiveness of manufacturing, and to try to do so in a bipartisan labor business way, and that's the way to solve the problem that we have. And I would cite a couple of pieces that have been done recently that point the direction to go. I think Atkinson again and the people at the ITIF put together a piece which I worked on along with labor and some others, which brought together over months business, labor, and academics to support an agenda for the renaissance of manufacturing. Now, it wasn't the end-all and be-all, but we all got together and we agreed on the 4 T's: trade, taxes, talent, and technology. It's a very useful piece generally, And it's particularly useful because it brought together from divergent views. If you want to know what you got to do to move manufacturing forward further, you got to have a coalition. You got to have business and labor. You got to have Republicans and Democrats. There's no point in talking about things that are going to divide us. What we should be talking about is things that are going to unify us. And the reason I agreed to come here, and why I'm delighted to be here, is to try to be, in my own modest way, a source of unity over the issues of trade, taxes, technology, and others. There's a second study that has been put out, which was the whole piece put out by the Council on Job Competitiveness and Emil's work, which had 5 measures, one having to do with infrastructure and energy development, another having to do with a drive for entrepreneurship and small business, a third had to do with the National Investment Initiative, a fourth on simplifying and improving regulatory matters, and then, of course, talent. Now, if you look through these 2 lists, you can come up with a pretty good, strong, in some cases unconventional agenda that I think we can get a coalition to support over the next couple of years and to try to move forward with. There's lots of agreement on the issue of talent. I think there's growing agreement on the issue of trade, and I'm here as testimony to that. I think a lot of people think technology and innovation is one of the things that can't have the budget cuts that we're going to be facing because it's too important. I think there's Republican and Democratic support for entrepreneurship in improving small business and moving forward in that whole effort at venture capital and innovation. And I frankly think, although I'm sure a number of people in this room don't agree, that we really ought to move forward with making our regulations simpler, less costly, and reduce that premium that American firms have to pay here. So, I'm optimistic. I don't deny the fact that corporations pursue mercantilistic, profit-driven practices. I think that they are bigger than that, though, in many cases, in most cases. And we're at an interesting turning point where I think the substance and some of the politics is beginning to come together. And I salute the people who put this together because I think this is one opportunity for that to move forward further. And I certainly will do all I can to work with all of you to move forward with a comprehensive or reasonably comprehensive agenda of measures that will address improving our competitiveness and have the support of business, labor, Republicans, and Democrats so it gets done. Part of the problem Clyde and I have faced over the last several decades is we've both talked in different ways about things that should be done, and they never got executed. And the same is true of Aldonis. You know, we talked about things that should be done. They never got executed. The problem in Washington is execution. Let's execute a little better.